This, my friends, here is a bag with 10 test tubes that I have to fill in tomorrow with my blood, because on the 7th of April I was bitten by a tick and I was infected with Lyme disease, something that it wasn't seen straight away. I had to take other tests, but this bite has changed some things in my life. It has moved many others, and today I would actually like to create this video to create awareness, because Lyme disease is something that I've been fighting with not just since the 7th of April, because really I don't really have any symptoms, so I'm not like in pain or anything like that, but I know it's there because of the tests that I had. And it's more because my sister's had Lyme disease since she was 7, but it wasn't diagnosed until she was in her 20s, in her early 20s. And as you can imagine, that changed a lot. Many things has changed her life, obviously, and our life because of experience. And what I wanted to do today is to create this awareness with this in the Gothic space, because when we talked about otherness, we talked about the uncanny. This is a very good example of where to find the Gothic in your everyday life, and analyzing something like Lyme disease under the Gothic-Jungian lens is what I would like to do in this video today. So if you're interested to know more about it and why I'm having all these test tubes for tomorrow, this video is for you. Hello friends, this is Alice and you are in Gothic Land. Welcome to episode 13, where we're going to talk about Lyme disease under the Gothic-Jungian lens, and that's why I was showing you before all these test tubes. 10 tubes to fill in tomorrow with my blood, which carries the Lyme bacteria, the Lyme disease. I wanted, and I'm going to do this video without no script, so probably the English part is not going to be identical to the Spanish part, because I wanted to do a video more without a script, more natural, like if I was just talking to you, if you would just hear as one of my friends. Probably I kind of go all over the tangent sometimes, because that's what my brain does, and I just connect ideas a bit randomly. But I would also, the idea is for you to see a little bit how my mind processes without the script, and also for you to feel more like there's a natural conversation. And I'll try not to extend myself too much, although in the Spanish one it took me like half an hour, but you can skip, you can skip. Anyway, so why talking about Lyme disease and how did that happen? Well, on the 7th of April, I wasn't, Lyme disease is transmitted by a tick bite. And a few years ago, this wasn't maybe very well known. And in the more recent years, since public personalities are also being infected by the tick and by Lyme, because not all of them carry the disease, but many of them carry parasites and they carry all the bacteria. They are coming out. For example, Avril Lavigne is one of them, and then I think there's a rugby player also. I'm not into sports much, so I can't remember the name. But if you look it up in the internet, you will find out how many people are actually have been infected, but also like Avril Lavigne, this has been creating awareness, and she's created a foundation to fight against Lyme disease. Also because in the States it's kind of a massive problem, and it's been since the 70s. Everything that goes behind Lyme is quite tricky, and I'm no one here to actually criticize all the dynamics, although we could talk about how much shadow there is in in certain industries, and we will need another whole space and episode, maybe more of a private space between you and me in a course to talk about it. So there's a lot of shadow there, because, well, there's the lack of knowledge, there's the investment to the test. Some people, like in every area, they are negationists and they believe that it's just something that doesn't even exist. The problem with Lyme disease is that even in your normal blood test, it's not going to come out. So you're not going to detect it straight away. And you need to ask for a specific test. The first test that I had done, they came out negative from the basic social security. That locally in Spain, we do have a good health service. However, because of my sister's case and my sister's experience, I took some extra tests that with some laboratories that really look into Lyme in depth, and it came out positive with all the different infections that I have, and also with all the how my body is actually attacking at the moment. The infection is detected something and it's attacking it. But the test for tomorrow is to actually see which cells do I have with inflammation, which are okay, and how my body is actually acting to kill it, so then I can take the right treatment. So as I was saying, I was bitten on the 7th of April, and the beginning, it was my son who noticed. He said, oh, what do you have there on your eyelash? So it wasn't on my head or anywhere. I've seen this in animals because I used to have dogs. I have cats, but they don't go outside precisely for things like this. And I've seen it in dogs, and there are different types of ticks as well. So my idea of a tick wasn't like what I had on my eyelid. So that was a different type of tick. And I also used to think maybe like a bit of urban legend kind of thing, that, you know, they only beat animals. But then over the years, and when my sister we knew what she had, we started making connections and thought and remembered and heard, and you know, people saying, oh yeah, such a body was bitten by a tick or by a bug. They used to say, you know, they was bitten by something, by a bug, and then they became really ill and they died. Back in the days, obviously, we didn't have as much information as we have now, so you would have thought that people got things, and yes, and there are like we don't die from mosquito bites as far as we know, but if you go to Africa, the malaria is a terrible and terrible as in mortal bite. So that's why you get your jabs when you go to certain countries. So obviously when I was bitten, as going back on the 7th, and I didn't really think that was a tick at the start, although I was suspicious a few minutes later. By that time, my son had already told me that I had something. I had removed it with my nail, and then I had taken a picture because he couldn't tell me what it was. I was just like, can you please tell me, what is it that I have? Is it probably some mascara? It's probably maybe I have a little spot there. He was like, no, it's something different, but I don't know what it is. And because he couldn't tell me, then I took a picture. And then I saw that, and the first thing was, I didn't recognize it as a tick, but I think in the back of my mind something was going on. And I said to him straight away, just get it out, take it out. And he says, I don't know how. Obviously, he was trying to do this, and it was so tiny, weeny, because it's like a little needle head, the head of a needle, so tiny, weeny. And with my mascara, maybe I had even painted on top of it because I had thought they was part of my eyelashes, you know, and when your eyesight is not very good, maybe that's what I even did. The thing is that I went like that to scratch it, thinking it was something else, and it kind of felt the bump and like it moved. So then it was, when it was loose, my son picked it out, and then he threw it away, and he killed it, and it did all sorts. But by which that time I was already bitten. I don't really know when it happened. You know, sometimes you have a recollection of when certain things happen because you either went, mainly with ticks, if you go through a path that it has a lot of bushes or high grass, or if you have pets, or if you've been with animals, then you say, yes, I know that I probably caught it there because I've been in the environment. But in my case, I was just doing my normal everyday routine. Even though I do live in the countryside and I have lots of plants and garden, I wasn't out that day. The only thing I did was to go and collect my kids, drop them off, pick them up, and for me the impression is that maybe that thing was on our plant and it jumped on me because I smelled delicious, and then he decided that I was good food. So, you know, thinking about how Gothic this is, how am I connecting all this with the Gothic? Well, think about the tick. It's a little vampire insect, and it sucks blood. I mean, and it had to buy me, someone who looks and studies the Gothic. And that made me, at that moment, it made me think of so many things. I had so many archetypes jumping in my psyche, doing the wrong thing. I was in denial, I was scared, I was angry. The main one was denial. And you know, in positive intelligence, they talk about saboteurs. So probably I had there some kind of avoider, big style, trying to say, well, there's nothing going on. This is not going on with you. It's not going to happen. But then when we got home, I was kind of worried, and then I started checking things out. And the first thing I was thinking, the first thoughts were, okay, I don't really want to go to the doctors right now because it was quite late in the evening. Maybe it's nothing, your brain talking to you, saying all these things. Probably it's nothing. It's raining outside and it's gone dark, very Gothic again. And, and then I thought, well, I'll check out, and then I'll look for if I get a rash, because normally when you get bitten, you might get a bit like a big red circle, and it looks like a bullseye thing. And if I have temperature, if I have a really bad reaction, like a bad cold the next day. But I had nothing, and I was checking during the following days, and the things that I had were things that I already have, like a bit of lightheaded, a bit of numbness on my face, because I've been getting those, and that's a lot to do with the stress as well. Maybe being already a lady with a menopause, all sorts of things came to my head, but it was there ticking away. And I wanted someone to say to me, no, that wasn't a tick. That's just a little book from a plant. But then 2 weeks later, when we met my parents and my sister, and then I happened to tell them maybe I was bitten by something, and luckily I showed the picture, my sister said, this is a tick, it's an lymph tick. You need to go and get some tests done. And that was how we started the process. I thought at that time that she was going to tell me off, that it was going to be, why did you wait so long after my experience? But no, she was really kind. She has her own channel called Las Voces del Cuerpo, Mercedes Dominguez, and she talks about her own process with Lyme disease and all her experience. She explains, she creates awareness. She doesn't talk so much about the problems with maybe the awareness even in the medical system, and all the difficulties to get the recognition, and there's a big fight worldwide with this. It's at pandemic levels now. We have a lot of cases now in Barcelona, and there are some pocket areas where Lyme ticks are quite aggressive. Some of them carry dengue, which is another it gives you high temperatures and you just die. You just can't even stop it. And so, she was, as I said, she was really kind, and she was like, okay, these are the steps that we're going to follow. You've been bitten, you removed it, which is bad. You should have just left it there and go to the doctors and get it removed professionally, because it's when they get scared that they send all the bacteria, like a boost downloading all the passengers, or they all come out at the same time. If they get scared, I could have just rubbed it and got scared, and it's not only because of the bite when I was trying to remove it. So, but the first thing that they say is, if you see a tick on you, phase 1, just go to the doctors and get it removed properly. And also because then they can treat you. In my case, I've not needed antibiotics yet because my body is kind of fighting it. But what I'm having with all these tests that I'm having now is just figure out which red cells have got inflammation, how my body is reacting, and where to actually make it stronger so it doesn't activate, and we can actually, the body can get rid of it, create an immune system, the enough defenses and all that, like we do with other things anyways. So the experience was kind of shocking in the sense that, imagine for my parents, this is the second time that they're having to go through this. The first time is being with my sister, she's the youngest. And as I said, she has her own channel, Las Voces del Cuerpo. It's in Spanish, all of it is not bilingual like this one. But if you know Spanish or if you're learning, I would recommend you go there, because she explains things really, really well. The videos are very long, but they're very thorough, and she kind of gives you a lot of information, images, resources, and it's fantastic. And then do your own research as well. You know, this is the idea here today also, is to create this awareness, so you can actually, if you ever think of something that you cannot really pick on, you know, like talking to a friend recently, I told her the story. She went, oh, that's making me think that once I had a dog and the dog had a tick, and that must have bitten my toe, because now I have problems there. And you know, creating this awareness is how we can actually help others too, you know, saying, well, maybe I could have some tests and say that I had, my dog had the ticks, and maybe I was also bitten by one. And because you don't think about it at the moment, because it's like a tiny mini insect there in your skin. So yeah, it's worth having a look, and it's worth not ignoring it. Why do we tend to ignore things like this? There's a lot of shadow in there. We live in this society where we are told that we are born, we grow up, we marry, we go to find a job, we and we die, bye bye, see you later. And we are never told that life is never on a straight line, and there are things that happen to us, there are illnesses that happen to us. So what do you do when something like this, either internal from you or external, comes and it stops the whole show? This is what we find uncanny. Your body that was so familiar to you becomes unfamiliar because you've got an external little sucker monster vampire thing that has stopped your fantastic routine and even boring, monotonous life, or life with a lot of problems, but it adds an extra one. And we get all sorts of ideas. We get like, I got, oh, not again, and I can't be bothered now with this. At home, we don't just have now me having Lyme disease, and thankfully it's not active. I don't want to know what it'd be like if it becomes active, because I have other things as well. That would be like an addition on top of other things. But also, I'm a carer. My husband had an ictus back in 2018, and since then, and from that moment, they found that he has also a heart problem, a heart condition. So he's had only works 29%, 30% is at the moment is a pensioner, because he can't work really. He's you know, cognitively he gets tired quickly. He physically he cannot do many things, and so for me that's been like, no, this is not possible. And we've got 2 kids. So when you you know, the experience of the Lyme from my point of view, which is very recent, and for me is that unfamiliar, it's the other way around, is this unfamiliar thing that has become familiar. So it's like a reverse uncanniness, if we can call it like that, because we've lived for many years my sister's disease from the moment she started feeling not very well, and that took years to evolve until it was diagnosed finally. It's been a nightmare. The uncertainty, the not knowing. This is what the Gothic talks about when we read certain books. This is the stuff that we make books from, that we create art from. We express ourselves from these experiences. So what we can actually learn from them. On the one hand, my sister's experience and her situation and her condition with the Lyme disease and everything that brought, I always said that made me a better person, because I was a little bit more rigid in my thinking. So my cognitive flexibility, it has been trained over the years because of this. Never judge people when you see them, because or label them as lazy, or label them as maybe they can't be bothered, or they're not good enough, or they just have excuses, because you never know what's going on in someone's life. One thing is what you see, and one thing is what's going on inside. And imagine such a bacteria, that Lyme, and this disease, that it goes even imperceived when you do normal blood tests. So, and we kind of guide ourselves, we live our lives looking at the personas of the masks that other people are wearing. This is in the Jungian terminology. But we sometimes don't even want to see what's behind that suffering. And even the person who's ill wants to put this mask that socially gets accepted, that doesn't get questioned, that people don't make the person who's ill makes them feel uncomfortable or strange. You know, there's so much Gothic in here. It's so dark that, you know, when I talk about the Gothic for under this Gothic Jungian lens of analysis of everything around us for self-development as well, it's because it makes you grow. It brings you lessons. From a positive intelligence point of view, we could even say that what is the positive information that I can take from all of this is that thanks to what my sister has experienced, she can now help other people to not go through the same long process that she did. She creates awareness. She can tell you now, this is what I've learned, this is what you feel, you might feel. If you feel that, it's okay. Don't blame yourself. Don't talk to yourself badly. Just listen to your body and stop living all the time in the outside. Just come to your body and listen. And be kind to you, and don't let others affect you with their opinions. They don't know, they haven't got a clue. They need to be informed as well. And if someone doesn't want to understand, it's actually their problem, not yours. So I've learned to be a better person with her experience. So now that it's come to me, rather than being really worried, I know what I'm dealing with. I know the monster. I know what it can actually do. Back at the beginning of her illness, of knowing what she had and receiving all the information from the hospital and the laboratory that deals with her, and then now is working with me. She sent me a video, and I think it's called Under My Skin, and that was shocking. And I was crying watching that video. I felt terrible for having thought ill of my sister at times, thinking that maybe she was just making things up. Other people even said to me, maybe she's making things up. And the fact that she's a hypersensitive person, which we also have to take into account. People who are HSPs and who are highly empathic, and when they get an illness like this, everything kind of enhances. And it can also trigger other mental disorders or problems like attention deficit. It can, illnesses like this are the things that are creating that is such a high percentage of the population with certain mental disorders, which I'm not an expert to give you now here data, but you can go out there, use your critical thinking and analyze it and do your own search. So the good thing from this is that my sister's experience now is helping other people through her channel, through her blog, by talking to me, by talking to her friends, and those of us, like, we are on social media, we actually talk to other people, we can actually reach more people and create this awareness and be that kind of support. But also looking at it from the self-development point of view and this Gothic Jungian lens that we deal with here, is also the Anthropocene is here, and this is one example of it. A tick, and the amount of ticks that we even have populations here in Catalonia where there are little villages they're just infested, and not just with with different types of ticks as well, because there's not just the one type. Not all of them are infected, not all of them have got bacteria, but it's a high number, and you're quite likely to get something from them. And the Anthropocene, going back to that, is this idea that what we are doing globally to the planet, we are breaking the balance, and this is the way that the planet has to give us the payback. It's payback time. It's Mother Nature, thinking about the Great Mother and the archetype of the Great Mother, the world, nature, and it's bringing us back a little bit of what we've thrown at it. So it's not entirely our fault, because these insects, these animals need to be there for the ecosystems, because they also have a purpose, and they serve in the circle of the ecosystems, because there are some animals that live by eating them, like possums that we don't get in Spain, for example. And you know, we destroy and think, I mean, we even kill each other, you know. We just look at what's going on around the world nowadays. So we're terrible. We're just terrible. We create this imbalance in everything that we touch. And but there's a part of the population, there's a part of the people in the world who can actually, by creating this awareness, we can actually do something about it. There are scientists looking into it. There's a group of people who are really worried and who really see the connections that exist between illnesses and the brain, how they affect us at a cognitive level, neuronal level, and our mood. You know, we're all part of nature, so it's only normal that we get affected by it, and it's only normal that our life, seen as a straight line, is kind of pointless. It's all a cycle. We live in constant cycles. There's even, if you want to look at some Gothic literature, there's the book edited by Simon Bacon, The Anthropocene and the Undead. There is a chapter there, I can't remember the essay title, but it talks about Lyme disease and how the Anthropocene, the connection between what we're doing and what I'm just saying now, and how Lyme becomes this other. Think about zombified in nature. Look at these snails that get bitten by they get infested by a bacteria as well, and the bacteria uses the body to run around and to do its thing, but it's eaten the whole thing, and it's just the shell of the snail. Not just the shell as in its shell, but even the flesh is a shell. There's no brain anymore. That bacteria is running the show. And you know, thankfully this is not what happens with Lyme, but it affects you cognitively. It affects your attention span. It affects how you perform. It affects how you speak. Just imagine the things that it can do, and all the substances that lives in your body when it's living there, and if it procreates and all that. You know, you just have to think about that. So it's worth looking, investigating, and not ignoring when something like this happens. When I say you are Gothic and you don't know it, and I had my magazine talking about that, is because everything around us has a lot of these liminal spaces, these black and whites. Not everything is straightforward. There's much uncanniness out there. The monstrous can become part of our bodies, and we might be run by it, and that's where all the science fiction stuff comes from as well. You know, pods coming from outer space trying to clone us. We don't even have to go that far to see what nature, due to our own actions, is bringing and is throwing back at us. So my friends, this is it for today's video. More or less, like in the Spanish one, is almost a half an hour. I've not done it in an organized way. It was just a conversation. I hope that you walk out with some information and some knowledge. If you are more interested, or you would like to talk more about it in depth, or you would like to talk more about the Gothic self-development, analyzing everything that happens to us, and how we can actually move on in our lives using this Gothic-Jungian lens, I have my webpage that I have updated recently. You have courses, we can talk, we can have one-to-ones, we can have a forum. I have open now the option for you to be in a forum as well, with different options and tiers, and just keep the conversation going and just creating awareness. And it's very good sometimes to talk to each other, precisely because we can learn a lot from other people's experiences, and we come out of our shell, and we're not scared of the dark. We're not scared of the dark side of nature. We're not scared of our own shadows. We're not scared of what's going on there. We are there just to precisely analyze and make a world a better place, precisely by shining a little bit of light in these shadow spaces, understanding more how our brains work and how humans work in general. Using your critical thinking is something that it feels really lazy, because the brain just wants to use the least energy as possible, but it's so crucial that sometimes we dedicate this time to actually analyze what's really going on and listen to your own body. Okay, my friends, so thank you for being here, and subscribe, share, and if you like it, ring the bell, click the bell, and I hope to see you very soon in the next video, where I will probably talk more about the Gothic, but I will be including what's going on with my Lyme disease and the progression of it. And if you want to know any more, I'll leave resources and everything here. And don't just follow me, contact me, and let's keep the conversation going. Have a lovely day. Thank you very much for your time. Speak to you very soon. Bye.